Can I beat Elden Ring only using shields? Join me today as we try and see if we can beat Elden Ring and become an Elden Lord only using shields. First, our looks. This is my best attempt on looking like Steve Rogers from Marvel, Captain America. Honestly, he looks more like Soldier Boy from The Boys. My goal for this video is to try and beat the game and every remembrance boss in this run. And yes, only using shields. Before fighting our first boss, Margit, I had to prepare just like Batman. First, I retrieved the turtle shield found in the Weeping Peninsula. This will boost our stamina regen. I went down to Sophia River and go up again using this elevator. Once up, I head towards this giant archer golem. Underneath him is one of the main weapons that I'll be using for this run. I went to Fort Farith in Caelid to get the first half of the Ductus Medallion and our first talisman, Radagon Sorcio. Using the spike shield and with its bleed damage capability, we managed to slay Greol, which granted us with a ton of runes. I went inside the cave to confront Patches, keeping in mind that I do not overdo the damage I deal him because we need to follow his quest. I can go to Altus Plateau to retrieve the Ash of War, or the skill that we'll be using, Shield Crash. This allows us to charge in with our shield, dealing damage and shielding us from any incoming attacks. This will be the Ash of War I'll be using throughout the run. I now need an armor. I decided to fight the NPC Bernal, who has a decent armor for early game. And now, we're finally ready to take on our first major boss, Margit the Omen. For this fight, I donned Bernal's armor. For talisman, I equipped Radagon Sorcio. And for our weapon, I equipped the turtle shield on my offhand for the passive stamina regen and used the spike shield as my main weapon. Our preparation was proven successful as we're dealing decent amount of damage against Margit. Bleed damage is a really great thing against him. I mainly use the skill Shield Crash throughout the fight as it's the only damage. It's not only damage, but it also shielded us from his attacks. Slaying Margit the Omen, we've got our second talisman slot, and I know just what to put in it. I went and fight this Keen Rot Knight in Lernia of the Lakes. Slaying her gave us the Winged Sword Insignia, which granted us bonus damage every successive attacks we do. Now it's time for our first remembrance boss, Godric the Grafted. I'm using the same build I used against Margit, with the addition of the new talisman we retrieved earlier. I was doing really well on his first phase. Our damage is decent and our shield can absorb most of his attacks. We even managed to get him to his second phase. However, the fire attacks and the grab attacks that he does on his second phase is proven really effective against us. So on my third attempt, I decided to not wear my helmet to get my loadout to medium, so we can do a medium roll. With patience and taking my time to wait for an opening, I managed to finally take him down after 3 attempts. 1 down, 14 more to go. I'm now gonna work towards getting the armor set that we will be wearing throughout the run. After completing the first assassination mission, I went and talked to Patches, who gave us his assassination mission. I went to a minor boss, the Magma Worm Makar, which I defeated on my first attempt. After defeating Makar, we can now invade the NPC Great Horned Dragon. When defeated, we'll drop the best armor in the game, the Bull Goat set. This armor will give us 100 poise, which prevent us from staggering from most of the enemy's attacks. With all those preparation, I'm now ready to take on our second remembrance boss, Star Scourge Radon. Right when I entered the arena, I ride turret away from Radon to disable his bow attacks. I then run towards him and made sure to stay close and under him to avoid most of his attacks. I'm maximizing the damage of my skill and made sure to stay close. With this strategy, we made it to second phase. I just waited and looked up to see where he might land to avoid his meteor attack. Once he landed, I run towards him and stayed close and under him as he gets really fast and agile on the second phase. We had a couple of close calls, but we still won on our first attempt. By the end of the day, and no matter how epic Radon is, I am the main character for the story. I've been fighting alone up until this point, so I decided to get our first summon, the Great Shield Soldier Ashes, which uses shields as their main weapon, which is within our rules for this run. While on the way to get the second summon I'm planning to use later on in the game, I fought myself, the Mimic Deer, and we came out victorious. I am the better version. After kicking myself's ass, I then took one of the best summons in the game, the Mimic Tier, which I will be postponing using until I really need to. Now I'm prepared to challenge the bosses in the Academy Raya Lucaria. I first fought Radagon's Red Dog. It only took 3 charges of our skill, Shield Crash, to take the dog down in less than a minute. I then took care of this annoying Karyan Knight guarding the elevator to Renala. Finally, our third remembrance boss, Renala, Queen of the Queen of the Full Moon. On her first phase, we just need to hit these glowing kids and wait for Renala to go down and crash our shields on her. We only have to bring her down 2 instances, and I made it on her second phase. Right when the second round started, I went on top of her to make sure that we hit her with full penetration of our skill. It only took 3 charges of our skill to bring her down. After taking down our third remembrance boss, I'm now confident to enter the Lendel capital. But first we have to take care of one of the most annoying minor boss, the Draconic Tree Sentinel, who's guarding the entrance. I sneak at his back, buff and summon our great shield soldiers. I know I'm weak against his fire attacks, so I made sure to stay near him and bashed him with our skill. We didn't let him do his fire attacks on us and managed to take him down in our first attack. We have proven ourselves capable and was granted access to Lendel. Now one of the main bosses on the way is Golden Godfrey. I buffed outside his arena. I summoned the Great Shield Soldiers. On the way I let them take the aggro while I use my shield crash on him while he's distracted. The summons are really great at distracting this boss, which made it really easy and give me enough space to cast my skills at Godfrey. We managed to defeat Godfrey on our first attempt. I need the upgrade version of the Earth Tree Favor Talisman. In order to get it, I have to fight and defeat Bo the Omen. I was dealing enough damage to Mo, but his fire attacks are really effective against us as it bypasses our shield and damages us. He also does bleed damage, which is really annoying. We nearly killed him, but we still fell short on my first attempt. On my second attempt, I finally used the Mimic here, which summoned a duplicate lizard version of us. Mimic only lasted until half of Mo's health. With Mimic gone, I have to be careful. I took my time and made sure to only attack him if he is not doing his fire attacks. I stayed away from him if he does his AoE fire attacks. With patience, I managed to finally defeat him on our second attempt. Taking down the lesser version of Moog, I'm confident enough to take on his brother and the fourth remembrance boss on our list, Margot the Omen King. I summoned the Great Shield soldiers for this fight, thinking they're enough to distract Margot while I use Shield Crash on him. Before his second phase, I used Margot's Shackle, which I bought from Patches. This item stuns Margot for a few seconds, which give us enough space to do our fully charged Shield Crash on him, which made him transition to his second phase. Margot quickly disposes of our summons on his second phase, but it doesn't matter. We are strong enough to take him on alone. There was a close call, but we still managed to finally take him down on our first attempt. A respectful bow to a true king. After defeating Margot, I went back to the sewers to take the main shield that I'll be using, the fingerprint shield. I then fought this magma worm in Windham Ruins. We need to defeat it so we can advance Alexander's quest. We need Alexander's talisman on the later part of the game. I'm not so confident in fighting the fifth remembrance boss, the fire giant. Since I need to advance Alexander's quest, I need to summon him on this fight. On his first phase, I made sure to stay close at his left leg and focus my attacks there. We eventually made it to second phase where all the bad things happen. Our build is relying on doing damage near our target, which works on the fire giant's favor. His AoE and fire attacks is really effective against us. Not only that, he keeps rolling away. Eventually, I run out of health potions and fumbled my first attempt. So near yet so far. Our second attempt did not go well at all. He pulled off this AoE fire attack that I never seen him do on his first phase, which fried our ass off. For the third attempt, I equipped Leonel's set, which has a better fire damage protection. Replaced the Winged Sword insignia with the Flame Drake talisman, which gives us fire protection. And I finally used the fingerprint shield. I focused my attacks on his legs in the first phase of the fight. With the changes I made, I can now sustain most of his fire attacks. I made sure to stay near his legs and spam my shield crash skill, and we eventually tickled him enough to take him out on our third attempt. Now we can let our maiden burn and get transported to Pharaoh Mazula, where we need to fight one of the required boss and the most annoying boss to fight, the Godskin duo. I thought bleed damage is the way to go, so I equipped the spike shield, but I'm proven wrong as the fat one just rolled on us. Bro just kept rolling even when we're already dead. I used the fingerprint shield on my second attempt, which is effective on shielding most of the damage. It can even withstand the fat one's rolling attack. It's still not enough to take them down. On my third attempt, I used Leonel's armor as it has the most offensive stats against slashing and fire attacks. I also add the bleed effect on our fingerprint shield, but we only managed to bring their shared health down to half after eventually failing again. So I took a little break, smelled the air outside, and went back to the fight with a higher level than before. I used the full bull goat set this time, using the upgraded shield with bleed effect. We're doing decent damage. We're also strong enough to sustain most of their attacks. Mimic even lasted until a quarter of their health remains. With Mimic gone, I took my time and made sure to only take on one of them at a time. I mainly focused my attention on the fat one and only attack the skinny one when the fat one is dead. With patience, I finally defeated the foreskin duo on my fourth attempt. Now, a moment of silence for one of the bravest warriors in the lands between, Iron Fist Alexander. We will make sure to make the most out of his talisman. A literal part of him will be with us until the end of the game. I know that the sixth remembrance boss on our list, Malekith the Black Blade, will give us a run for our money, but I was not expecting how weak I am against the second phase. His first phase is quite simple. I run in, summon Mimic, bashed him with our shield, and eventually he'll go to his second phase. This is where the real fight begins. His attacks goes through our shield. He also gives a debuff which takes off a quarter of our health away. His black flames burns our health in a faster rate which I don't have any defense against. So I took a pause again, went to farm runes and leveled up my arcane enough to increase the bleed effect on our bleed damage whenever it procs. I also made sure to stay the hell away from him and only attack when he distracted by our mimic. With patience and luck, I finally took the bearer of death itself, Malekith, on our fifth attempt. This next fight is underwhelming compared to what we have fought before him. Gideon, the self-proclaimed all-knowing. Our next target and the seventh remembrance boss on our list, Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. For this fight, I used the fingerprint shield with bleed on it, which is really effective against him. With the upgrades we made earlier just to defeat Malekith, we made it look so easy getting Godfrey to his second phase. Mimic really helped on distracting Horolu, which give us enough space to do our Ash of War shield crush. I also learned to keep my distance. Still traumatized on Malekith's fight, I tend to stay away from the boss and only attack when he's distracted. As surprised as you are right now, I defeated the first Elden Lord Godfrey on my first attempt. Time to see if we can be an Elden Lord by only wielding a shield. Time to slam this Edgelord Radagon for ghosting our beloved Renala. For this fight, I use fire damage on our shield as the following boss is weak to it. Fire damage also scales with strength, which is the main stat that we are maxing out. This is underwhelming considering he is a godlike figure on this land. Malekith's fight really made us stronger. I made sure to use my skill, Shield Crash, when he is distracted and put my shield up if he does attack us. With this simple strat, we easily took care of Marika's alter ego, the Edgelord Radagon. Now time to test the might of our shield against an alien snail and the 8th remembrance boss on our list, the Elden Beast. Now, they added the feature to be able to right turn on this fight, I made sure to take advantage and use Torrent to go near the Elden Beast and use my fully charged shield crash at him. Mimic did not survive until the end of the fight, but he was really useful on taking most of the damage from the Elden Beast. Even though the boss is not weak with fire damage, we eventually dwindled his health and took him down on our first attempt. It's quite underwhelming compared to Malekith, but a win is a win. Adding turret to this fight really made it really easy compared to before. There you go. You can technically beat Elden Ring using only shields. Our character really looks like Soldier Boy. Our mission is not over yet. We still have 7 more remembrance bosses to fight to test our might. In my opinion, one of the easiest and our 9th remembrance boss, the Regal Ancestor. It was a bit challenging to hit our Ash of War on him because of how small his legs are, but eventually we took him down on our first attempt. Before we can take on the leader of the Volcano Manor, we have to defeat another foreskin, the Godskin Noble. This fight gives me a bit of PTSD from the Godskin duo fight, but we are now stronger and managed to take him down on our first attempt. The leader of Volcano Manor and the 10th remembrance boss, Rykard. For this fight, I used the fingerprint shield with bleed damage. Rykard does a lot of fire damage. I even need to step into lava just to get near him and attack him. His first phase was fairly easy. We avoided most of his attacks by just going under him for most of the fight. His second phase was where all hell breaks loose. He does this skill where he spawns fire skulls that chases us and does a ton of fire damage. Not only that, most of our attacks misses him for some reason. For our second attempt, I changed the fingerprint shield to ice damage and equipped Leonel's set as it has a lot of fire negation. We easily got to the second phase with the changes we made. I managed to sustain most of his fire attacks, and this is where I noticed that from some reason my skill or attacks is not damaging him. Later I find out that his body is immune for some reason. This fight is the definition of close. I ran out of healing flasks at the last second. I realized I can only damage his tail, so I put my focus on it and desperately chases it. And finally, we took him down on our second attempt. Now we take on the suspected PDF file and the 11th remembrance boss, Mo, Lord of Blood. I used the fingerprint shield for this fight with bleed damage. I know from the first encounter we had with Mo in the sewers that he will be annoying, but our upgraded shield is proven really effective on damaging him and negating most of his attacks. I was focused on just attacking Mo throughout the fight, only pausing to wait for our stamina to regenerate. And with the aggressive strategy, we took him down with ease on our first attempt. The next boss on our list, and the 12th remembrance boss, Dragon Lord Placidusax. For this fight, I used the fingerprint shield with bleed damage on it. I made sure to always chase his tail and focus my attacks on it. Most of his attacks were done in front of him, and I made sure to put my shield up whenever he does his attacks to negate most of its damage. With this simple and effective strategy, we managed to take him down on our first attempt. It's annoying to go down here just to fight the 13th remembrance boss, Estelle. I'm still using the fingerprint shield with bleed damage for this fight. I was having trouble hitting him at first as he moves a lot, and when he do his attacks I can only lock onto his head, so it's quite difficult to land my skill at him. But when we do hit him, we deal a lot of damage. I decided to focus my attacks on his feet. Mimic did the final blow to end the fight and took Postel down on our first attempt. I let Mimic Tier take care of Fia's simps. After taking them down, we're now ready to take on our 14th Remembrance boss, the Lich Dragon 40 Sacks. This boss does Bloodlight damage, which is instant death, so I have to pay attention to the death blight meter. I focus my attacks on his feet like any other dragons that we fought for, rarely dodging most of his attacks and most on just attacking. We took him down on our first attempt. To get to the last Remembrance boss, I first fought Commander Neo. I used the fingerprint shield with bleed damage against him. I first took care of his minions and focused my attacks at him. Using our shield is really effective against him, and we managed to defeat him on our first attempt. To advance, I have to fight the Knight of the Halic Tree, Loretta. She does a ton of magic damage, but we deal a lot more damage against her and took her down on our first attempt. Finally, the most anticipated fight and most annoying one to fight, our 15th and final Remembrance boss, Melania, Blade of Mikla. I used the fingerprint shield with bleed damage against her. I made sure to keep my shield up when she is attacking. It's hard to land our skill shield crash on her as she keeps sideswiping, but when we do land our skill we do decent amount of damage and staggers her. This is when I saw the disadvantage for this fight. She does lifesteal, which increases her health back when she attacks us, and yes, even when our shield is up. We managed to get her to second phase, although it was close but still fell short. On my second attempt, I added ice damage on my shield since she is weak to frost. I also changed to Lionel's set as it has more slashing damage protection. We easily got her to her second phase. We were doing fine and managed to back her off into a corner, but she pulled off her best move, the waterfowl dance. Not just once, but 3 times. So I decided to get a shield that can help us even more. I defeated this pumpkin duo and got the Visage shield. This shield's Ash of War allows us to breathe fire in front of us. Melania is also weak to fire damage, so for our third attempt, I'll let Mimic use the Visage shield, hoping he will spam the fire attack, and I'll use the fingerprint shield with the ice damage for maximum damage. And as I thought, it was really effective. We managed to get her to her second phase. We were doing really well until Melania did waterfowl dance, then the flying attack, then the grab attack. The 3 combos was enough to bring me down. Now on our 4th attempt. I thought Mimic was not really effective with the Visage shield, and he was not using the Ash of War enough, so I decided to use it myself, and I let Mimic use the finger shield instead with the ice damage. And baby, I spammed the fire breath like there's no tomorrow. With that strategy, we made it to our second phase again. Focus on only one thing and one thing only. I spammed the fire breath every moment I can. With this strategy, and with luck that she did not do her waterfowl dance, we managed to finally take her down and let her know defeat on her fourth attempt. There you go, gamers. It is possible to defeat Elden Ring and defeat all the remembrance bosses only using shields. If you have not tried it yet, why not give it a shot? It's a fun build, and as you have witnessed, a really effective build. Wow, what an experience! I really enjoyed this challenge run. It made me really motivated to record each part and see if my build is really capable of taking on those challenging bosses. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, gamers, just how I enjoyed playing this game for you. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have any suggestions as well on what we could do next. Consider subscribing if you're not subscribed yet. Leave a like on the video too. Until next time, gamers, have a good one and mabuhay.